It's time for your daily LSU baseball update with Musso at the box. Now, Matt Musso.
Welcome in, off and running, another edition of Musso at the box. Fired up. I'm glad to have you all along for the ride. We continue to count you down. Opening day, Friday, Valentine's Day, LSU and Purdue Fort Wayne. We are just about finished with every preview that we can do. I mean, we have gone through the infield, the outfield. We've gone through the catcher position. We have given you the overview on the pitchers. We've met the freshmen, the transfers. We've recapped all the scrimmages. We've done just about everything. There's a few more things left to do. One of them is today, and that is a look at the schedule. And now, when I look at the schedule, I look at it through a very unique lens, and that is, does the schedule set up for LSU to be a top 8 national seed? So that's the question we are after trying to answer here today. There are a few things that go into being a top 8 national seed. The schedule is a huge part. I mean, look, obviously you have to have the talent. LSU has the talent to be a top 8 national seed every single year. Okay, that's just the world you live in when you're a program at the level, at the height of the sport, the standard, like LSU is. It's a world you live in when you're in the SEC, especially near the top of the league, normally year in, year out. You always have the talent. Now, coaching plays a factor into that. Jay Johnson has won a national championship. He's been a top 8, coached many top 8 national seeds, not just at LSU, but, in his previous stops as well. And then, as I said, kind of right off the top, the schedule. The schedule plays a big part into that. So we're going to go through it here today, take a look at the the pre-conference, I guess kind of the non-conference too, but the pre-conference, the SEC slate, toughest stretches, where your games are played, all of that wrapped into one. Does it map for LSU to host and have the road to Omaha go all the way through Baton Rouge? So fired up to do that. And in doing so, we'll give you a little preview on some of the SEC teams and things of that nature, I should say, the ones that really kind of stand out. So be sure to subscribe, smash the like if you have not already. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel and on your favorite podcast app. Just search Musso at the box. That way you can take the show with you wherever you go. Follow me on social media, and let's go ahead and dive right into it. So we'll start overview of the schedule just kind of by the numbers. Obviously, look, we know LSU opens up the season Friday, February the 14th against Purdue Fort Wayne. They will play 3 games against Purdue Fort Wayne. Overall, LSU will face 15 teams that were in the NCAA tournament a year ago. You will play 32 of your 56 games against those NCAA tournament teams from a year ago. And look, not all tournament teams are created equal, right? Totally understand. Grambling's on your schedule again. They went to the NCAA tournament a season ago. LSU beat them like 27-2 last year. And that's not just exaggerated. I actually believe that was the final score. Not all tournament teams are created equal. Some are not going to return everything that they had from a year ago, but that does show you a sign of strength in the program. So 15 NCAA tournament teams, 32 games out of your 56 against those NCAA tournament teams. 4 of those 15 hosted regionals. 3 of those 15 were top 8 national seeds, and 2 of them advanced all the way to the College World Series in Omaha. Those 2 teams played each other for the national championship. That's kind of your overview by the numbers. If we get into this a little bit deeper, and we'll start with the pre-conference and then get into the SEC, because the pre-conference is it's a pretty easy deal to go through. You'll open against Purdue Fort Wayne. You have a midweek against Southern and Nichols, so you have your 5-game week there after opening week. And then you'll welcome in Omaha for a 3-game set. And then once you get to February 26th is the first time you're really going to learn about LSU. That starts their first trip away from Alex Box Stadium. And we talk about this every year. I love that they do that. Go test your team. You passed the test of flying colors a season ago. It didn't necessarily translate the rest of the way once you got into conference play. But again, you saw that team show up later in the year. LSU this season, I should say, and what they normally do, or what have started to do under Jay Johnson, and this started back in 2023, They go on the road to play a midweek, and then they go to one of those tournaments. They've all been in Texas, right? So in 2023, you went on the road to Texas. That was a fantastic game. You won it. And then you went to the Frisco, you went to the Round Rock College Classic there. A season ago, you went to Rice, beat up on the Owls at Reckling Park, then went to the, at that point, I believe it was still the Shriners. It's not the Shriners anymore, but the Astros College Classic in Minute Maid. It's also not Minute Maid Park anymore. RIP. And swept through that, beat some pretty good teams. Texas, ULL, like those two teams went to the NCAA tournament. You swept through that. This season, LSU goes to Globe Life to face Dallas Baptist, tournament team from a year ago, team that won their league, got an automatic bid. They're ranked in the top 25 again here preseason. That's going to be a really, really good test and an awesome venue in Globe Life. It'll be the first time LSU plays at the home of the Texas Rangers. And then you'll stay in the area and play in the Frisco College Baseball Classic, where you'll open up against Kansas State, tournament team from a year ago, then face Nebraska, tournament team from a year ago, and you'll round that out against Sam Houston, which is a very, very good program. They did not make the tournament a year ago, but that's a good team that's normally very offensive. That is the first stretch where you will sit there and you will play 3 tournament teams from a year ago in a row, one in the midweek, and then you'll get your first test for your rotation there as well, at least the 1-2. So that's going to be the first stretch where you learn about LSU, and it's really, in my opinion, the only dire stretch for you in the pre-conference. After that, it's a couple games against North Dakota State in the midweek, a 3-gamer against North Alabama. Xavier comes back down. Scrappy team, one to watch. They did knock you off in the Sunday game in the series a season ago, and that wraps up. That wraps up your pre-conference. So, I mean, you're looking at 3 series against Purdue, Fort Wayne, Omaha, and North Alabama that should go your way at will, if we're being honest. None of those teams made a tournament last year. Like, those should go your way at will. LSU, depending on what happens in that Frisco stretch and Arlington stretch, has a chance to set themselves up with a lot of wins in the pre-conference and have a really good record heading into your SEC slate. So let's look now at that SEC slate. This was such a big deal a season ago for LSU because one thing we always look at when we go through the 30-game grind, right, when we're previewing the 30-game SEC schedule, is it's split into half. The front end, the back end. Is it equitable? Is it front-loaded? Is it back-loaded? What does it look like? LSU schedule a year ago, you will remember, was very front-loaded. You opened up at Mississippi State, and at that point, Mississippi State was relatively unknown as to what they would become, which was a tournament team a season ago. But you quickly learned in that series, okay, no, they can play. And they continued to excel throughout the rest of the season. So that was really the one in LSU's first 5 that we looked at a year ago and we're like, okay, that one seems gettable. And then the stretch starts. No, it wasn't. That was part of the 5-series stretch that was just hell on LSU. So you opened up at State, so on the road. You had to come home against Florida, a team that snuck into Omaha a season ago. Then you were on the road at then number 1 Arkansas. You came back home to face a top 10 Vanderbilt team, and then you were on the road at a top 5 Tennessee team that ultimately won the national championship. You lost all of those series. You were swept in 2 of them and lost rubber matches against State, Florida, and Vanderbilt. It was the first time ever that LSU had a stretch like that where they just struggled. And the schedule lightened up for you in the back end. When you look at 2025, it's more equitable, but it still trends backloaded. Okay? So LSU opens up at home against Missouri. Then they go to Texas. Then they come home for State. They go on the road to Oklahoma, and then they're on the road at Auburn. So you do have the back-to-back road series there. But Auburn was the worst team in the league. We'll talk about Oklahoma here momentarily. Then you start the second half of the home series against Alabama, and then comes your stretch, which we'll get into. You're home starting April 25th. You're home against Tennessee. You have to go to Texas A&M, and then you're home against Arkansas. So that the 3 out of your last 4, that's really the stretch where you go, okay, it's more backloaded, but throughout it is fairly equitable. So I like that. Breaking these down, not necessarily in the order that you're going to play them, but where you're going to play them. And this is where we can really bring the top 8 conversation into play. LSU's home series are Missouri, Mississippi State, tournament team, Alabama, tournament team, Tennessee, and Arkansas. You can probably already see where I'm going with this. LSU's road series, you're at Texas, you are at Oklahoma, so having to go to the both new members in the conference in season 1 is a little unique, and I don't love that, but I think obviously the reason there, look, LSU's the biggest draw you have in the league. They just are. Not to say that other teams haven't had great success. I mean, Tennessee's a heck of a program, just coming off a national championship. Dave Van Horn, what he's had at Arkansas, obviously. LSU is the brand in baseball when it comes to the SEC. They're a huge draw, so to give them, welcome those 2 teams into the league with big home series like that, fair. So you're at Texas, you're at Oklahoma, you are at Auburn, who was the worst team in the league a year ago. You are at Texas A&M, you are at South Carolina. I will not bury the lead any longer. I think LSU is a top 8 national seed this year, and one of the big reasons why is the road schedule. LSU's toughest series are at home, outside of Texas A&M. And y'all, the Aggies are going to be really, really good. Okay? They are. That's going to be a good team. They returned damn near everything from a year ago when they were the national runner-up, won 53 games. You've got your Friday night guy, your staff ace, and Ryan Prager back. Your Saturday guy and Justin Lampkin back. So you have your 1-2. You have the presumed national player of the year in Jace Laviolette and potential number 1 overall pick in the draft back. Freshman of the year, Gavin Grahovac is back. Caden Kent at shortstop is back. Like, they have every piece they want back. That is a team that is set up for a lot of success, and you have to go on the road. And that is by far your toughest road series. And that's going to be a hard one. You beat them a season ago in Baton Rouge when they were ranked number 1. They are going to want to get you back. The interesting thing with A&M this year is Michael Early in his first season ever as a head coach. How does that go? It's going to be a new spot for him, and could it cost A&M maybe some games early as he figures things out? But that's not until May for LSU. But after that, like, even if you chalk that one up as an L, and it might not be, that's a long way away. We're going to find out plenty about these 2 teams before they meet starting May 2nd over there in Bluebell Park. But even if you chalk that up as a Series L, because you're going to be on the road at a championship caliber team in the SEC, great atmosphere, all those things. You go back and you look at the rest of the schedule on the road, and the other 4 are all gettable. They are all winnable series for LSU. Texas, they obviously have Jim Schlossnagle coming back in, but y'all, there are some real question marks on the mound for the Texas Longhorns this season. It looks like they have their Friday night guy figured out, but outside of that, there's question marks, and they're going to lean on the offense in Schlossnagle's first year. Look, that's a Texas team that was a tournament team a year ago, but they won 36 games. They're ranked all over the place in these polls. There's not a consensus on Texas. And you get them early in the SEC schedule when they could still be figuring things out. That is a gettable series for LSU on the road, 100%. Your next one would be Oklahoma. Oklahoma hosted a regional a season ago, but The Sooners are unranked in the majority of the polls. They return only 13 players from that team a season ago. A step back is fair to assume in Norman. Now, that's not to say they don't have some good players. They return an All-American at catcher. They return a preseason All-SEC guy on the mound. They're Friday night guy. So that is a team that won the Big 12. But again, it's a team that only returns 13 players. And they're ranked in 2 out of the 5 polls. A step back is expected there, or fair to assume, I should say. That's a gettable weekend on the road. Auburn was the worst team in the league a season ago. Like, if you were going to get back-to-back road games or road series, Oklahoma, Auburn, probably about as good as you could hope for right now. Preseason outside looking in. Auburn was the worst team in the league. One of their best players in Chris Stanfield now plays for LSU. That is not to say that Auburn won't be better. You'd expect them to improve at least on being the worst team in the league, but maybe not. We'll see. That's a gettable series. Now, the caveat that I will throw out there is Jay Johnson has taken 2 trips to Auburn, and he has lost both of those series, including in 2023 when LSU won the national championship. So that's kind of been a bit of a house of horrors for Jay and LSU, but one trip there and you lost it. But you just won your first series against them a season ago. But that's a gettable series. It just is. For all the reasons that we just went through. We talked about A&M, and that's going to be a tough one. And then you go to South Carolina, where obviously the intrigue there is going to be Paul Maneri, but South Carolina is a team that got hot last season and got their way into the NCAA tournament. Their resume leading up to that point wasn't very good. It's why Mark Kingston isn't there anymore. Like, it's why Paul Maneri is the new coach. Because South Carolina actually wasn't a great team a season ago. In Paul Maneri's first year, we'll see how that goes. There's going to be some piss and vinegar in that. I mean, I'm sure that team's going to want to win for Paul against his former team. It's the last weekend of the season. They could be playing for their tournament life. Like, there's plenty of reasons to look at that and go, okay, yes, it could be. But LSU's a better baseball team than South Carolina on paper, 100%. And that's a gettable series. If LSU goes 4-1 in their road series, you're going to be a top 8 national seed. That just is going to bolster your RPI because road wins count for more. And you get your toughest weekends at home. Tennessee, Arkansas, State. If you have to play those 3 teams in a year, you want to play them at home. You played all 3 of them on the road last season. Now you get all 3 of them at home. That flips. LSU, you go 2-1 in those series. You're going to be a top 8 national seed. I think LSU is capable of doing that. When you look at Mississippi State, that's a ball club that, I mean, look, they played really well a season ago when most people weren't expecting it. Well, they've got the attention, back on them. They are ranked preseason, but they're replacing the top 2 guys in their rotation from a season ago. There obviously is no Durangelo Saincha anymore. You do have Hunter Hines back for his senior year, but he struggled last year. So that's a team that you could conceivably look at and go, okay, they won 40 games a year ago. Can they get there again? I don't know, but I think they're going to be a tournament team potentially. You get that at home. Arkansas, admittedly, there are some question marks with Arkansas this season. They have to figure it out on the mound. Catcher's been a problem spot for them here so far, not early, but through preseason camp, just reading around, looking at the reports out of their practices and whatnot. But Dave Van Horn's a hell of a coach, and that's been a really stable program for a while now. I would expect Arkansas to be full ready to go eventually. I mean, Baseball America has them ranked number 4. D1 baseball has them ranked number 5. Like, they are a top 5 team, even with their question marks. It's going to be a lot of new faces, and they have to figure out the pitching, but they return, who is the preseason pitcher of the year in Gabe Gackle. They add East Carolina transfer Zach Root, who is a highly sought after lefty. You could look for Gage Wood to make the rotation over there. Like, they've got the pieces. They're just trying to figure it out. And that is in the second half. That's late. So you're going to get Arkansas's best shot, but you get it at home. And then Tennessee, y'all, look, I get all the hype for Tennessee. Tony Vitello has built a behemoth up there in Knoxville, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. I know a lot of people love to hate on Tennessee and Vitello and all that. He's a damn good coach. I actually think they've become a little bit more likable here as of late because they've cut out the taunting and all that crap that made them so unlikable. But that's a team that loses Christian Moore, Blake Burke, Billy Amick, Dylan Dreiling, Kavaris Tears, Drew Beam, AJ Causey, and Aaron Combs off a team that won 60 games. Yes, you had the number 7 portal class, and that's awesome. Yes, you bring in the number 1 ranked high school class, and that's awesome. But you do not lose. You just don't. You don't lose that much off of a team, not only in the lineup, but on the mound, off of a team that won 60 games and just completely step right back into it. You don't. There is going to be some sort of a step back in Knoxville this year. There just is, because you don't lose that and just roll along. Look at the last 3 national champions out of the SEC. State, Ole Miss, LSU. Look at the next season. They all struggled. State and Ole Miss missed the NCAA tournament, and LSU snuck in. Well, they were a 2 seed in the regional, but they got in there. But they lost their first 5 conference weekends. It is hard to replace everything that Tennessee lost. So factoring that in, and don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you Tennessee's going to miss the tournament. I'm not telling you Tennessee's going to be horrible. Tennessee's going to be good. They're going to be good, and it's going to be a tough weekend. But you get it at home, and they lost all of that. And on top of that, you don't play Florida. You don't play Vanderbilt. You don't play Georgia, who was a top 8 seed a year ago. You don't have to play Ole Miss, who they think they're going to be a little bit better this year. You dodge a lot of good in this league. I think LSU's schedule sets up very favorably. To be a top 8, you need to at least win 18 to get in the conversation. You get to 19, you've got it. 19 and above, and you've got it. I look at this and I say, can LSU get to 19 and 11 in this league with the talent they have, the coaching that they have, the continuity on the staff, and the talent, and now the schedule? I think you can. I think 19 and 11 is a realistic possibility for LSU. Love your road schedule. Love your home schedule. And you have that one really tough 3-series stretch on the back end. But 2 out of those 3 are at home. It's there, y'all. It is there for LSU to go take it. So, yeah, I'm on record. 2025, LSU's a top 8 national seed. That means the postseason goes through the box as long as LSU plays. And if that's the case, I'm picking LSU to go to Omaha. So there you go. Top 8, Omaha team. There's my official prediction. I would think LSU checks in somewhere around 40-16 on the season. I'll allow for a few losses there in the pre-conference, because you always have a couple. And then I think you can get to 19 and 11. So somewhere around 40-16 conservatively, but it wouldn't surprise me if they are a little bit higher ranked there. I should say a few losses in the pre-conference and just kind of the midweek games. Those things happen. So there you go. My official on-the-record prediction. That's going to wrap it up here today on Musso at the Box. Subscribe, share, follow on social media, smash the like button, please. YouTube and podcast, greatly appreciated. And be here tomorrow for some more. We're going to give our one final preview on the LSU lineup, a projected lineup that I'm sure to get wrong, and all of those things. And then after that, it's time to preview Purdue Fort Wayne and talk about the weather. So we'll do that on the next few days on Musso at the Box.